Week 10 of the NFL season is now in the books, and as of now, we've got a couple of Super Bowl favorites currently not in the playoff picture, and a few MVP caliber quarterbacks sitting on the sidelines looking in, as well as a few teams that are in title contention that make you want to turn your heads. And we've got a couple of key injuries and possible key returns on this edition of Gridiron Gab Pro Style.
The autumn winds move like the thunderous waves of Neptune's sacred palace. And here, amongst the blackened soil, lies the ragged hands, worn, torn, and callous. They await with cunning and vicious prowess, for the warriors have returned. Come on, Dutch! Don't do it! Woo! No way! Woo! 85! Crying out loud! You're making me, you're driving me nuts! But behold.
Welcome back, Gabbers. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us here on this edition of Gridiron Gab Pro Style. Of course, it's me, Mr. CeeLo here, hanging out with you again on Gridiron Gab Pro Style. And I hope you guys are doing great. As I know I haven't been with you for a little while, but the schedule has been hectic, you guys. But the ones that are with me, I appreciate you being with me. But the season's gone on, and Mr. CeeLo has seen some surprises, some major surprises that have occurred. And honestly, it's what makes the NFL a step ahead of college football. It's so much parity that it's never the same usual suspects, including the usual suspects that are actually on the outside looking in. Usual suspects that we might call the man. Which segues into, guys, we now officially have our first sponsor. And it is one of my favorite products. It's called the Effin' Man. He builds it, fixes it, lifts it, breaks it, then builds it again. The world calls him a man. We call him an effing man. This lotion is made TF Man. The lotion made for the man. TF Man. The lotion made for the hands that earn it. Crafted from grass-fed tallow, squalene, and grit. No flowers, no fluff, just results. You know the type. The man who shows up. The man who gets it done. The one who doesn't need a filter, a hashtag, or permission. He's not just a man. He's an effing man. How many of you know an effing man? And now he's got the lotion to match. TF Man. The whipped tallow cream from LV. Made from grass-fed beef, tallow, and squalane. Squalane and pure grit. No chemicals, no perfume. Just hard-earned hydration for hands that build, lift, and live. LV is all-natural skincare rebuilt for real people. TF Man. TF Man. Because being the effing man means taking care of your own damn skin. And guys, when you try TF Man, this stuff is absolutely awesome. They have some awesome things. This is a gift pack that I was given from the great people over there at LV. Make sure you go and try them out. I keep saying on my other shows that I'm going to put this QR code in there. I've got the link to put up there, but I have not put it in there. My apologies. I will remind myself to put that in there for this show right here. But guys, LV is awesome. I know the owners. They are straight awesome people, and their product is really good. I have been putting it on my face after I shave. But guys, always remember, the ladies love a man that looks amazing, smells erotic, smells exotic, and is just a man. Not just a man, but the effing man. Make sure you go by LV. There's if you guys go by there, you can use the 20% off code FRIENDS20. And it will give you a 20% off of your first purchase over there on LV. Make sure you go by. Guys, they have great stuff for your skin and whatnot. And for the ladies out there, if you ladies out there are watching, or guys, if you have a lady, they've got great things on there for your ladies. Just in time for the holidays. That's LV. Be the effing man. Guys, how are you? I hope you guys are doing great, and judging by the NFL season, some of you are doing great, and some of you are like me. You're wondering what the heck you got going on. Yeah, guys, we've got a crazy season that has gone on, especially in week 11. This is probably the wildest week 11 I've ever had the privilege of dealing with, being that you look at this in totality, major upsets this week, and we had some injuries that went down too. Definitely want to hit those first, as we all know CJ Stroud did not play this week, and was in concussion protocol. But before we get started, we definitely want to send out our prayers and condolences to the family of Marshawn Kneeland. As many of you know, before this past weekend, he was involved in an incident where he took his own life and passed away. We send our heartfelt condolences to this young man. As Jerry Jones said, he was just getting started, and I agree. I watched that Monday night game where he recorded his first touchdown. It's just a tragedy, and we just give our heartfelt condolences to this young man and his family. But we move forward from this tragedy. There are individuals in this league who get hurt, and we must make sure we bring that to acknowledgement, as Mr. CeeLo has done a bad job of doing that. As we see the Packers place center Elton Jenkins on injured reserve after fracturing his lower leg in that game against the Philadelphia Eagles. This is going to be a huge loss for this team, as they are already slowly starting to get players back. But there was news today out of Jacksonville that rookie corner / wide receiver Travis Hunter has had surgery on his LCL and will miss the remainder of his rookie season, basically ending his rookie campaign, which was marred by injury. And many of you have watched this show. I said that very same thing when he first came into this league, that it was going to be very tough for him to be able to pull that off. I admire him, but I felt like this was going to be very difficult. Cornerback Jaire Alexander is stepping away from football after being traded to the Eagles just before the trade deadline, stating he needed to get right physically and mentally in his ongoing recovery from off-season knee surgery. And as I said, we've seen him struggling somewhat in his return. So yeah, we're seeing this. And also quarterback Jackson Dart for the New York Giants was also injured this weekend. So there's been quite a few major injuries that took place in this week. And yeah, it's going to have a mass effect on certain teams going forward. But let us get into the act that was week number 10 as we look at the Thursday night game, which was the Broncos 10 and the Vegas Raiders 7. Now, it looked as though early on that the Raiders were going to take this game and they were going to walk away with it, given that they just kind of opened up on the Broncos. Now, this was a game that was dictated by the conditions. I mean, Mile High really took control over this game early. And yeah, I mean, for them to go to 8-2 and beat a 2-7 Raiders team, it looked more like the Raiders at times looked like the dominating football team. And all Sean Payton would say, we've got to clean up some of those penalties. We've got to clean up the execution, and that is an ongoing thing that probably never ends. Here's the thing. How about just giving the Raiders some credit? Because at the end of the day, this is your building, and there's no way the Raiders should have been in this game. Yeah. At 8-2, they are the best team in the NFL. Well, they own the team's NFL's best record. I'm not going to go as far and say they're the best team in the NFL because, honestly, they did not look like it. And I get it. The NFL is a week-to-week league. Once again, I echo the repeats of a friend of the show's who said how difficult it is to watch Geno Smith. I mean, this is not the Geno Smith the Seattle Seahawks got to see. But as well, the running game for Vegas has not gotten going. As we see, Genty had 60 yards from scrimmage on the ground and had the first score of the game, which was a touchdown. You did not see much of Brock Bowers. You saw him on one catch, 1 for 31. You saw 3 for 22 to Michael Mayer. And I've got to believe that the Vegas Raiders are just not on the same page. I mean, it's not that difficult to see that you need Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer to get going. And for whatever reason, you see Geno Smith trusts Tyler Lockett. He comes right back into this offense not long after joining his team. 5 catches, 44 yards. But look, here's the reality. Geno, you got to get on the same page with Brock Bowers. There ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He is arguably your best player and y'all's best option at this point because everybody's bottling up Genty. End of story. And as I said, Denver Broncos, they deserve their flowers, but it's just how Sean Payton says things. I mean, like I said, I'm not a fan of his. It's always about what they don't do. You heard it here. They didn't execute. Yeah, I'll admit, Bo Nix did miss some throws, but you could put that on both sides. Ultimately, you win by a field goal, but you look at this team and given the conditions, I will put that out there, but you needed a block punt to get yourself in a position to kick the game winner with 5 seconds left in the third. Now, granted, you did keep the Raiders. Your defense has been pretty darn good. I'm not going to, take anything away from that. But ultimately, the Raiders ended up with a interception later on in this game, and usually reliable Daniel Carlson missed a 48-yarder with 4:26. What most people don't talk about is the way the wind was just kicking up in Denver and how the conditions were just absolutely something out of a Golden Child type movie.
What the?
You remember the scene when they were in the Himalayas, the wind is just blowing crazy. Yeah, I know. And then Pete Carroll says he's got to kick better. Bro. I mean, a 48-yarder in those conditions. Come on, Pete. You got to come out. You call a better game. You can't even sit. I mean, look, you can if you choose to, but Geno hasn't been good. Your play calling hasn't been good. Your defense was finally halfway decent.
Bruh.
The game was a typical Thursday night flag fest with neither team able to get in the offensive rhythm. I agree with that, but I'm not going to sit here and say it was a flag fest. I mean, you talk about being able to just go down on the first drive and be able to just, punch it in. And yeah, I mean, ultimately, you took the lead, but was unable to maintain it in true Raider fashion. See, that's my problem with Pete Carroll. You're sitting here throwing off on your kicker when you didn't say nothing about your punter who got his damn kick blocked. Sorry. And I mean, yeah, it's pretty impressive that Geno got hurt and wanted to go back in, but for what? You were ineffective. And the problem I got with it is, look, Geno, if you got that kind of pull, Brock Bowers needs to be your dude. I mean, I'm sorry. It's inconceivable why you are not doing what you're doing, knowing who he is and what he means to your football team. Brock Bowers got to get the ball. But 10-7, this was a real snoozer, as the Raiders will host the Cowboys next Monday night, and the Broncos will host the Chiefs, and arguably a game in which the Chiefs will probably come out and want to put a hurting on them. Now, I get it. The conditions will probably be about the same in Mile High, but I'll put it to you like this. If Denver was looking ahead, they might have should have just paid attention to the Raiders. That's all I'm going to say. Because if they play like this against Mahomes and company, they will get beat. Next, we got the game in the first ever game in Berlin, which they were treated to a absolute fun fest. As this game went into overtime, and Jonathan Taylor put on a clinic and basically opening his campaign up as the MVP of the National Football League as he ran for 244 yards and 3 scores on 32 carries. That's an average of 7.6 yards per carry, you guys. Then you look at Daniel Jones, who's able to throw for 255, a score, and a pick, but he was sacked 7 times. So, with that being said, we can look at this Atlanta Falcons defense and really question, did you guys really get that much better in the draft? As James Pierce Jr., one of the first-round guys that they took, Hodge had a sack in this game, as well as Arnold Ebiketie, as well as Zach Harrison, Caden Ellis, Jalen Walker, the rookie out of Georgia, and Ronnie Harrison Jr. You had 7 sacks for the Falcons. But in typical Falcon fashion, they always figure out ways to lose games. And I'm going to be honest with you, when you give up 31 points, it's really hard to win. Not to mention, you throw in the 83-yard touchdown run that Jonathan Taylor had, which was one of the longest of the season. But ironically, the Falcons had a chance to win this game until the last drive of the game, when the Indianapolis Colts drove down the field and were able to tie the game with 25 seconds left. That's not coupled with the fact that the Falcons had taken a 25-22 lead in regulation after Tyler Algier had plunged into the end zone and pretty much owned the last drive, on the last half of the drive, I might say. And he was hot. And it was refreshing, if you're a Falcons fan, to finally see Algier getting almost equal share of the load, because you use Bijan Robinson at such a capacity that you almost overuse him. Where you see in past weeks, it was just Bijan. This was a game where Algier had 11 carries. And then you got Bijan, who had 17 for 84. But Algier was the more efficient back, having 11 carries for 57 yards and 5.2 yard per average and 2 scores. So maybe Raheem Morris and his offense maybe have figured out maybe that's what we need to do. And then he also only touched the ball twice in the passing game. I think that's not a good sign there. To me, I think Bijan needs to have more of a 15 carry, 5 reception type game. To me, he's the modern Christian McCaffrey. I know a lot of people are going to say, but Christian McCaffrey's almost been in the league double digits in years. He'll be even 30 this year. And needless to say, Bijan is the new age McCaffrey, or however you want to place it. But the Falcons need to figure out how to evenly distribute him the ball. I get it. Drake London's a great athlete with 6 grabs for 104 yards and a score, but you still have not figured out how to get Kyle Pitts in. He caught one ball, I think was on the last drive, and was it regulation or overtime? It was one of the two. But I keep sitting here saying, why do they try to get Darnell Mooney more involved than they do Kyle Pitts? I just have never understood that logic at all. I mean, the guy is 6'6", 250, and people will continuously discredit this dude. Keep playing around. Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen are gonna get this kid, and he's going to the Hall of Fame. I'm just keeping it real. Y'all keep playing around, Atlanta, and you mess around and let this guy walk. That's all I'm gonna say. Mess around and let this guy walk. He is 25 years old. Keep playing around. As far as the Indianapolis Colts go, you're getting an efficient game out of Daniel Jones despite the 7 sacks and the interception. But you can't say any more about what they're doing on this defensive side of the ball. You've got Zaire Franklin, who's getting out there and just knocking it out of the park for this defense. And Nick Cross, who's coming out there, 7 tackles. Jermaine Pratt, that huge pickup in the offseason. And we're looking at Lou Anarumo, and people are saying, okay, he was the problem in Cincinnati. And, of course, we're looking on the other end, and we're saying, maybe he wasn't the problem. I think it's pretty obvious who it was. And then Sauce Gardner had a pretty darn impressive debut. And, when they got this guy, you basically put this guy with a contender, and now he's playing with a different type of purpose. I mean, you got a guy who is arguably one of not only the biggest guys on that corner, he's one of the biggest defenders on the corner. And you got a guy who's technically supposed to be playing wideout playing over there. So he's one of those guys, he has a no-fly zone. It's just common sense. You don't throw to that side. So now you've got a Indianapolis team who now has one corner that can shut down one side of the field. And you've got a pretty darn good pass rush, coupled with the fact you have a defensive coordinator that's not afraid to go get you. Now, I will say this, Michael Penix Jr. was rattled all day. I mean, and I love Penix. I think he's a good player, but he was shook. 12 of 28, 177. I hate to say it, but Raheem Morris, it's looking like the writing is on the wall as the Falcons fall to 3-6 and the Colts go to 8-2. Then we move to the 27-20 return game of the Jets over the Browns. Now, the Browns have every reason to look at this game and say, how did we let this one slip? And I'll tell you, if you don't play special teams, you better understand that special teams can get you too. Just those 20 seconds on the field can be the difference between a victory and a loss. The truth of the matter is when you watch this game, you didn't really get much out of the Jets offense. I mean, you got 54 passing yards from Justin Fields and 127 yards rushing. Let me say that again. You got 54 yards in the air from Justin Fields and 127 on the ground. Now, if any of you wonder how that happened, I'm about to tell you. First of all, the Jets made some history. As for the first time in their history, they returned a kickoff and a punt in the same game. And they took a Breece Hall screen pass from Justin Fields and took it in for the go-ahead score, which, by the way, I want you guys to know this, that accounted for 42 of Justin Fields' 54 yards passing. Oh, boy. Now, all of this took place despite the fact that the Jets are coming off trading Sauce Gardner and moving Keenan Williams to the Dallas Cowboys. Now, you're not going to get me to believe that these two guys were cancers in the locker room. But I did remember somebody saying, a friend of the show, saying that usually when you make these kind of moves, what generally happens is guys lower on the roster, they look at this as an opportunity to move, which I don't disagree with. But however, I still think that this was just a game that Cleveland overlooked. They felt like, because here's the thing, when you know you've got a better offense than the opposing side and you just know you got a surefire defense, sometimes you can just overlook those 20 seconds in between the swaps, you know? Just a little bit. And needless to say, that accounted for 14 points. And the one mistake that the Cleveland Browns made on defense was that screen pass. And Aaron Glenn was saying, hey, he basically said, we know we got a long way to go, but, you know, he said our special teams gave us a spark today. Aaron Glenn. They won the game. They didn't give you a spark. Y'all should give them game balls. You know, I mean, outside of a couple of bonehead plays like the 3rd down and 16 that Devin Bush committed the holding call on, you know, it's just one of those where bad teams find ways to lose. And Jets were a 1-win team. Browns were a 2-win team. And, you know, you go back to the whole narrative of, is Dylan Gabriel that guy? He was sacked 6 times. You know, some of it was him holding on to it too long. Some of it was the fact that he just didn't do it. Because Will McDonald had 4 sacks in this game. He balled out. They couldn't slow him down. Quincy Williams had a sack. Jermaine Johnson. And let's not forget to put out there that the big guy himself had a sack of his own. Malik Collins had a half sack. Mason Graham added 3 tackles on the day. Carson Swessinger had 10 tackles and a half sack himself. The after mentioned Devin Bush had 5 tackles. Tyson Campbell 5. But in all of this, if you cannot remember that there are 3 phases to the game, it's always going to be games like this that cost you. And the reality of it is the Browns have a lot to think about at this point, because right now you have to be thinking at some point If Dylan Gabriel can't get this done, you're going to have to try out Shedeur Sanders, because the reality of it is it's coming up on that time where you're going to have to decide what that top pick is going to be, because you're flirting with it right now. Between you and the Jets, y'all are flirting with the first pick. And the question you have to ask yourself, are any of the candidates that could be the first round pick or the first pick in this draft, are they worth the first pick? In more news, Garrett Wilson left this game with a knee injury, and they're not sure what the extent this is going to be. I'm just going to say it like this. Stefanski has more lives than most cats do, because ultimately, I got to be thinking that this team has got to be looking elsewhere eventually. But finally, about this game, the Jets honored the late Nick Mangold, whom I got this notification on my phone, who tragically passed away earlier that day after his battle with the kidney disease. He was 41, and I remember this guy from my time being really watching this game. I've been in love with the National Football League since I was a teenager, and I remember this guy, and I even remember his teammate of DeBrickashaw Ferguson, who was one of the best offensive linemen to ever do it, you know. And Nick Mangold was one of the great centers to play this game. And I remember when, you know, we would watch, you know, that Jets team back in the day, and this guy was on that team, you know, and it's just a tragedy to see a great person gone to such a horrible disease. But yeah, that was a great tribute that they did for him. And we all will put our prayers for Nick Mangold and his family. Now, this is one of those games that I just scratched my damn head at. Houston 36, Jacksonville 29. Now, Jacksonville was winning this game 29-10. And I sat here, and if you guys are like me, you pick the games. We don't do the daggum spreads because of games like this. Now, Davis Mills can say what he wants, and the reality of it is, he says he's like a shooter. He's not going to stop until he sees one go in. Bruh, all I can say is, Jacksonville went to sleep. That's all it was. I mean, this is a team that went to sleep, and honestly, their pass rush outside of Josh Hines-Allen is nowhere to be seen. I will tell anybody that Trayvon Walker is laughable. You know, that's just the way I see him. He's very laughable as a scary pass rusher. I'm sorry. You know, people will say, well, he had 10 sacks last year and 10. But look, dog, no. You take Josh Hines Allen off of that field, he ain't hitting on nothing. I'm just going to be honest with you. And I think he's got to be dealing with an injury of some sort. 2 sacks. This is a guy that's been a terror on that defense. But you can't say anything about it. I think Jacksonville has hit its peak. Trevor Lawrence was 13 of 23, 158, a touchdown and a pick. He was sacked 5 times. And needless to say, Danielle Hunter had one of those games that you just knew was coming with this top-ranked defense. You knew he was due one of these games. 3.5 sacks in this game, 7 tackles. And I'm going to be honest with you, Danielle Hunter is a lot like Myles Garrett. If he gets there, if he's got a guy where he just knows he's going to dominate and he gets hot, you in trouble. The guy just turned 31, and I'm going to be honest with you. When you look at how this guy has been, you know, not giving his money for what he's done, I'm going to tell you, Danielle Hunter could really go on a tear right now. I mean, it's looking as every game has looked like he's been right there to breaking out. I mean, he had 4 sacks coming in this game, and now just that quick, he doubles the output that he has. And the thing you look at is when you got Will Anderson and you got To'o, it scares you because ultimately you don't want to get in a situation where you're letting one of them go crazy. Listen, what most people don't know, pass rushing is like a running back. When you get hot, you get hot. Just ask Garrett. Ask Danielle Hunter. Ask TJ Watt. Those guys get hot and they get on a roll. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, that's really what happened in this game. But then I look at this and I say, look, how did Jacksonville get up? How did they get up? You know, and open up for the largest comeback in history behind the 21-point damn comeback they had in 2013. I mean, to me, it's mind-boggling. And then not to mention, you know, Will Anderson's able to get the strip sack, and Sheldon Rankins, you know, takes it in for a score that puts them ahead. I mean, listen, I've always said, I might sound like it's, it's a joke and it's easy, but it ain't easy to protect the lead in the National Football League. Because a lot of times what you tend to do is back off and get conservative. And guess what the teams are able to do? Don't. They know you're going to back up. You don't want anything to get behind you. I think the umbrella defense is the worst defense ever. Every offensive coordinator knows where the holes are. I think ultimately you need to stay aggressive. That's just me. I think you always have to stay aggressive. And like I said, Davis Mills came out. He got hot. Ended up throwing for 292, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Really have not been able to get much out of the running game, even though it was better, as you got 47 out of Nick Chubb on 5 carries. Woody Marks has 63. Finally looking like this offensive line for the Texans is starting to put a little bit of somebody on their back. Nico Collins had a game, 7 for 136. Dalton Schultz, 7 for 53. Jaden Higgins, 5 for 42. And a score. Dalton Schultz also had a score. Jalen Noel, 4 for 35. Then we look over at the Jaguars, and it was just nothing like what the Texans were able to do. Because to me, Davis Mills looked more like a former first-round pick than Trevor Lawrence. And a lot of that could be attributed to Danielle Hunter. I've always said the problem with Jacksonville has been they have not been able to get quality offensive line play for a while. That year that they went to the playoffs, seems like forever ago. They had pretty good offensive line play, but right now the offensive line is in disarray for the Jaguars, and it's not been good for either the running game for the Jaguars or the passing game. Jaguars fall to 5-4. Texans are 4-5 with C.J. Stroud possibly returning from his concussion. And one of the big surprises of the day, I know my son is not happy about this, Miami 30, Buffalo 13, as the Dolphins snapped their 7-game losing streak against the Bills. As Tua had only beaten Buffalo once in his career before Sunday. I didn't know that, even when Miami was walloping people one time. You know, what's funny is Tua said something that I think a lot of players need to appreciate. Every time you can get a win in the NFL, that's special. And he's right. A lot of people look at, and even myself, I have to stop and have to think. Because I got humbled as well this weekend. But given the times we played Buffalo in the past and have gotten close and then gotten blown out, I think this is definitely one that makes it that much more special that it was against Buffalo. They've had our number for years. End quote by Tua. And I'm going to tell you, this was insane what I saw. And Devon Achane on my fantasy team added a pair of rushing touchdowns, but I didn't know this either, whom lost to the Bills. This was the first time the Bills lost to the Dolphins since 22. It seems like yesterday. But anyway, looking at this, I knew Buffalo had issues stopping the run. And this is what I told my son. You turned around and you stopped us being the Carolina Panthers, and then you turn around and give up 197 to the Dolphins. That what we doing here? I couldn't believe that. I mean, I really could not believe that the Bills put in so much effort to stop our running game, and then you let Devon Achane run for 174 on you in 2 scores. I couldn't believe that. Really couldn't believe that. And Tua threw for 173, 2 scores, 2 interceptions. And I was at a point where I was sitting there thinking, why are y'all throwing the ball? I was sitting there thinking, is McDaniel trying to get fired? I'm like, what is he doing? There ain't no way I wouldn't have not handed the ball off to daggum Achane. And we look over at Allen. He had 306 on the day and had 31 yards on the ground. And James Cook looked mortal. Look at this. 53 yards on the ground. And he ran up over 200 on Carolina. And then Dolphins gave up over 200 yards on the ground to Rico Dowdle. That was effort. Them boys came out and played with effort. They said, y'all ain't coming in our house and beating us up. To me, I know what people are going to say. Oh, that don't mean he get to keep his job. I'm not saying he gets to keep his job, but I can tell you one thing. When you can get a guy out there that can get your guys to come out there and play and put in effort, that's worth a second look. That's all I'm going to say. As Tua was not even sacked in this game. Josh Allen was sacked 3 times in this game. This is after the trade of Jalen Phillips. As we saw Sealer, Gay, Willie Gay, and Bradley Chubb pick up sacks in this game. Look, we can sit here and call it what we want, but the fact of the matter is the 3-7 Dolphins are 3-7. They've got their 3rd win, and the Buffaloes get their 3rd loss. And not such a good fashion. That's not one of those games you want to see where you got beat to the corner. I'm not going to say Miami beat you up in the trenches. It was a lot of getting to the corner, and Miami did a great job of doing that. You know, they take this one and put a feather in their cap with the defeat of the Buffalo Bills, but I'm still not writing this off as that the Dolphins are coming out of their shell or so on and so forth, but it's a possibility, Dolphins fans. Bills got to get this thing figured out because their running game is week to week. And I'm talking about their defensive stoppage of the run game. It's week to week. It's got to be consistent. And, yeah, I'm just surprised that, when you get 300 yards throwing the football, you lose like that. Patriots 28, Tampa Bay 23, as the New England Patriots once again, whom share the best record in the NFL with 3 teams, of course. We've already spoken about them. As they go to 8-2 by knocking off Tampa Bay in their building. And arguably, probably the biggest poignant point in this game was Tampa Bay going for it on 4th and 3 at the New England 27-yard line, with $1:55 left in the game, 21-16. Now, a lot of people would say, I understand going for it. It is still a 2-score game, and you could argue that going in and getting, because I agree, not kicking the field goal was the right move. I mean, ultimately, I just don't know what the play call would have been here. I get it, but you can see Tampa Bay is really struggling at times against the bigger opponents without Mike Evans and company. Unfortunately, this is going to go down as one of those where you just ask yourself, what if? Emeka Egbuka's been arguably the best rookie all season. I think he's arguably taken this Rookie of the Year now, especially with Jackson Dart officially being done. With 6 catches, 115 yards, and a score, he's really proven to be Baker Mayfield's number 1 guy. He's got 40 grabs on the year, 677 yards, halfway to 1,000, just under halfway through the season. He's got 6 touchdowns already. So, yeah, and Cade Otton, 9 grabs, 82 yards. Tez Johnson, 4 for 42, and had 2 touchdowns. He's really turned into a big playmaker for this team. And then you look at Sean Tucker, who came in and he's slowly beginning to be a massive contributor, despite the fact that he had fewer carries than Rachaad White. He had 53 yards on the ground. Arguably, the New England Patriots are a team. They're saying they're going to take the run from you. They're basically saying they're going to concede the pass. Same thing they did here with Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers, as Mayfield was able to throw for 273 and 3 scores. But it wasn't enough. But you can't say enough about the running game for the Patriots, as Vrabel is doing exactly what he wanted to do at Tennessee. Travion Henderson's had 147 yards on just 14 carries, averaging 10.5 yards a carry and 2 scores. Whereas Drake May continues to impress. He was 16 of 31, 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception, and was sacked only once. And that's another thing that has been a key for New England. They have not been allowing Drake May to get dirty. Ultimately, he's gotten dirty on his own accord. As we see Mac Hollins, 6 grabs, 106 yards. Kyle Williams had a 72-yarder. And Stephon Diggs, 5 carries, 46 catches, 46 yards. As Tampa Bay made it a notion to keep him quiet, but then in the process, you let Mac Hollins and Kyle Williams torch you. And needless to say, this is not a Tampa Bay team that you push around. And unfortunately for the day, Tampa Bay got pushed around in their building. So, I mean, I'm not a fan of the New England Patriots, but I can honestly tell you, they're quietly one of the best teams in the league, in a 3-way tie for the best record in the National Football League. Better take notice. They run the ball and they stop the run. Tampa Bay's got to figure out, if they're going to win a Super Bowl, how to get back to what they're doing, which is stop the run and being able to run the ball. Bears 24, Giants 20. As Caleb Williams shows up to be the star that the Bears were hoping they were getting when they took him number 1. Williams threw a touchdown pass and scrambled for the go-ahead score in the 4th, giving the Bears the 24-20 victory over Jackson Dart and the can't seem to get one Giants. Now, they haven't been getting their butts kicked, but they just can't get one over. But the plus is that the Giants see new light. Unfortunately, the light has been extinguished for Brian Daboll, as he was let go of the next day. In my opinion, it was... I was wondering what they were waiting on. I mean, but honestly, I could tell you, when rookie running backs Cam Scatterbo got hurt, to go along with Malik Neighbors' injury, I honestly knew that this team was just going to fold. And I can honestly tell you, I was, when I heard Daboll got the boot, I was honestly sitting there saying to myself, he's got the guys competitive. And I know what people are going to say. Well, and I'm never for a coach getting axed after he's gotten a quarterback. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought Daboll deserved another opportunity, especially given the fact that you've got Dart throwing for 242, and really, he's part of the running game. You basically got Jackson Dart doing the exact same thing that you had Daniel Jones doing. Look at that. 6 carries, 66 yards, 2 touchdowns. At some point, you got to get somebody back there in that second, because you gave up 24 points to this Bears team that has had trouble. And the other thing is, this offensive line for the Bears looks a little bit better. However, they did do a better job on the offensive end, moving the pocket, not keeping Caleb Williams stationary. They're doing an excellent job. And this is where Rome Odunze is actually prospering. And as a Carolina Panther fan, I'm a guy that I'm looking at how they're using him, and they're giving him things he's comfortable with, like a lot of play action. Look how they're using Rome Odunze. 6 catches, 86 yards on a score. Colston Loveland, 4 for 55. Luther Burden III, 3 for 51. Even DJ Moore is not getting the ball. That's what's very concerning if I'm a Bears fan. Now, you're getting away with it and you're winning, but at some point, you got to get your money man the ball. Darius Slayton had 4 grabs for 89 yards for the Giants. And Theo Johnson, 7 for 75. Wan'Dale Robinson, 6 for 62. And Jackson Dart is doing a really good job at what he's seeing. Looking a lot better than I thought he would, judging by what I saw at Ole Miss. And then, of course, Russ had to come in relief, and he threw for 45. The question is Jackson Dart going to be able to play? When is he going to be able to play again? But looking at this Chicago team with C.J. Gardner-Johnson picking up 2 sacks in this game, Montez Sweat and Gervin Dexter picking up sacks. You got a football team here who's now starting to go on the prowl and is quietly 6-3. You heard me, 6-3. Who thunk it? And what's scary about this team is they're doing the same thing that the Giants is, except the only difference is I guess you could say the Bears have a few more weapons. The Bears are quietly 6-3, and I'm going to be honest with you, they are kind of scary. Giants fall to 2-8 and now have a regime change. Ravens win their 3rd straight as they take down the Vikings, as J.J. McCarthy is still in the process of learning, going through the same steps that Lamar Jackson has gone through. Now, many of you know I'm not a fan of J.J. McCarthy. I think his athleticism is pretty good, but then when you look at this line, 20 of 42, 248, a touchdown and an interception. I think they throw the ball too much. I really do. I don't know if that's by design, because you've got Aaron Jones, you got Jordan Mason, who combined for 72 yards. Meanwhile, J.J. McCarthy was the leading rusher. I'm a firm believer you got to do a lot of play-action pass or a lot of bootlegging, as Jalen Nailor had 5 catches for 124 yards and a score. Now, I can tell you right now, if Jalen Nailor is your number 1 receiver, I got to ask a question. Where the heck was Justin Jefferson at? I refuse to believe that they were able to shut him down. I think ultimately what it was is that you used him as a decoy. Now, granted, you were right there. You were right there. You had the opportunity to win the game. I get it. I totally get it. But you got to look and say to yourself, you can't, McCarthy is young, and I understand that. I don't believe in the over-aggressive thing. I will say it's over-aggressive when you force a ball into a place where there's a bunch of people. That's cool. Now, the pre-snap fouls is a totally different element. You cannot have pre-snap fouls. That is something that you cannot have. Coupled with the fact that you're not reading well, the Jalen Nailor throws were absolutely impressive. But you're facing off against a Baltimore team that is trying to make an upward climb. They are trying to get back to 500. And needless to say, the Ravens can get to 500 next week with a win at Cleveland. And you're looking at a team that is definitely looking to say, we're back. And they ain't far. Because right now, you possibly got Buffalo and Kansas City on the outside looking in. Oh, yeah. It's as real as it feels, y'all. The reality of it is, this NFL season is anything than what we predicted. I mean, you can sit there and predict who the usual suspects are, but this year, it is nothing like what you would think. It is everything opposite of what you would think, because, as I've said before, not only can looks be deceiving, but looks are also very weird to look at in this day and age. Because in this NFL, yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. But let's just say Mahomes is on the outside looking in. Let's say Stroud is on the outside looking in. Well, correction. The Chiefs are inside. I'm sorry. My bad. No, they're outside. My bad. I had it right the first time. They're the 8 seed. There's no such thing as an 8 seed. That's right. And then you got Baltimore on the outside with Cincinnati trailing along. So, yeah. But back to the Ravens, whom, as Kyle Hamilton said it, and I quote, we're starting to hit our stride. If Baltimore hits its stride, and this is the thing, if you guys watch NASCAR, I don't watch a whole lot of NASCAR. I just kind of picked it up when I was watching Days of Thunder. If any of you guys know what that is, cool. I am thinking about when you get going. Like, let's say you pit, and other guys don't pit. You beat the pace car out of the pit and you catch fire. Now, everybody else is going, let's say 60 miles an hour behind the pace car, just for rough estimate. I don't know how fast they're going. But you hit max speed when the green flag is up. You heard Robert Duvall say that in that movie. Basically, in a nutshell, what that means is once you catch up and once the green flag drops, while the other guys have to, work their engines to death to get up to max speed, you already there. You flying through everybody. This is where Baltimore's at. Everybody else may hit a bad spot, the bye, or whatever. This team, on the other hand, they know they got to play straight through, but they got 8 weeks. And they're playing some good ball. They're playing some really good football. And as I said, if they can stay healthy, right now, they're looking pretty darn impressive. I cannot joke. The Ravens are scary right now. The Ravens are scary. All I'm going to say is that teams better look out. They had better look out. Because ultimately, this is going to be a team to deal with if they get into the playoffs. And it ain't just because of Lamar. It's going to be because this team has gone through some serious adversity to get this done. Minnesota needs to get it figured out with J.J. McCarthy. I would say running more. And probably one of the more humbling defeats of this weekend, the 1-win Saints 17 and the Carolina Panthers 7. To say the Saints were looking for stability is an understatement for me. You look at a team whom everybody's talking about saying, oh, Tyler Shuck is the oldest rookie ever. I knew Tyler Shuck was going to be trouble because I saw him at Louisville. And most people are saying, oh, he's 26 years old. Good luck with that. But what people failed to understand was this dude's a baller. What are you talking about? You can sit there and diss this dude all you want. But the reality of it is this guy was part of some big wins at Louisville. And once again, this is a guy that's not afraid to throw that ball down the field. And I think you guys forget how dangerous Chris Olave was. Before this guy had his riddle, and it happens to every receiver. Look, it took Mike Evans 11 seasons, and we hate it for him. We hate it for him to not be able to break that mark. His name should have been flying solo, but unfortunately, it's not going to be. But Chris Olave had to remind the entire NFL world that he's the effing man. 5 catches, 104 yards, and a touchdown. I think many of you forgot this guy's from the Ohio State University, and I'm not even an Ohio State fan. Put some respect on that name. Juwan Johnson also added 4 grabs, 92 yards, including a 52-yarder where where J.C. Horn slipped. And honestly, when you look at this game, the Saints had only been blown out in a couple of games. So this is where the Carolina Panthers, who were winners of their last of 4 of their last 5, had been trying to run the ball. And the Saints said, Donald, who had been tearing up the NFL, was held to 53 yards. And then as a Carolina Panther fan, guys, I'm going to say it like this. I'm sick and tired of hearing the talks about Bryce. I'm tired of hearing about it because the offensive line was not good. Rule of thumb, if your offensive line is not blocking well enough to run the ball, and you're a running offense, chances are you're going to have to use some deception to throw the ball as well. Because most of the time, if you got teams like Minnesota, you've got teams like New Orleans, as well as Denver, they send the house. They don't sit back. They send the house. Because ultimately they realize it's better for a quarterback to have no time to figure out what he's going to do than to give him time and try to find a place to figure out where to go. And ultimately, that's what happened. The Saints did a great job of bringing the pressure Tyler Shough did a great job of taking his shots when he saw him. His mobility was really good. And the Carolina Panthers defense did not play bad. Ultimately, it was just a matter of 2 plays that cost them. And Derek Brown had a heck of a game. Arguably one of the most dominant forces on the field. You're not running right at the Carolina Panthers. You better be running off tackle or you're not going anywhere, as he had 9 tackles. Trevin Wallace and Nick Scorton each had a sack in this game of Tyler Shough, as well as Nathan Shepard and the ageless one, Cam Jordan, for the Saints, also added a sack. Good to see him still playing hard and healthy at his age. Definitely a Ring of Honor guy. Possibly in my opinion, he's a Hall of Famer. But the Saints get this win, and it was huge for them, as they're looking for some light at the end of the tunnel. They are in the cellar in the NFC South, but now they only trail the Falcons by 1 game, and the Carolina Panthers are 5-5, looking for answers after a very humbling defeat. Next, probably another surprise in the NFL. I know a surprise to me, as the Seattle Seahawks absolutely beat down the Arizona Cardinals in their building after their very big win in Dallas this past Monday night. This previous Monday night. And the Seattle Seahawks just continue to impress. But this game was not Sam Darnold's time to shine, but DeMarcus Lawrence, who put up 2 defensive touchdowns. And honestly, I didn't notice until I looked it up, but DeMarcus Lawrence had only scored 2 touchdowns in his entire 12-year career. And yeah. Like I said, Lawrence returned 2 fumbles for scores and became the 6th player since 1991 with 2 defensive touchdowns in the first half of a game. And I'll say this. You can't pick that. And honestly, it's painful when you as an underdog come in, and that be the Cardinals, and you take those 2 scores off the board and you're in this game. It's a 1-possession game. And you cannot win that way. And the Seahawks win despite having injuries to Julian Love, Josh Jobe, Ernest Jones IV, and Jarran Reed. But the Seahawks just keep finding ways to do their thing. Mike McDonald has just done a great job looking back when he was the DC at Baltimore. You knew he was going to be aggressive. You knew his defense was going to be especially good. And despite that, they've got some guys out there that can really do some things. And you guys know, if you guys know me, I love Nick Emanwori. This was his time. And I said it for the longest time when Julian Love, which could be the end this year. I think he's got 1 year left on his deal. There's his guy right there. Nick Emanwori. And I told all y'all when he got drafted, this wasn't going to be pretty. He got a half sack the other night along with 10 tackles. And then you have Tyrese Knight, who had 2 sacks on the night. DeMarcus Lawrence that did his thing. And Leonard Williams, Mafe had a sack and combined for 5 sacks. And then you just have to really see what Seattle is doing. They're running the ball efficiently. 46 carries, 198 yards on the ground. Sam Darnold was 10 of 12. This ain't Navy, y'all. He threw the ball 12 times. Yeah. Jacoby Brissett was 22 of 44, 258 and 2 scores. Yeah. They did run the ball for 129 yards as a team. Bam Knight had 28. Jacoby Brissett had 31. Demercado had 64 on the ground. Trey McBride once again had a big game. 9 catches for 127 yards on the score. Demercado had 3 catches. Wilson had 4. And after that great showing on Monday night from Marvin Harrison, he had 3 for 33 and a score. But once again, turnovers will kill you every time. Seattle's one of those teams that turns you over. They go to 7-2, doing what they do best, run the football, and still somehow Jackson Smith-Njigba was able to get near 100 yards receiving and a touchdown. Somehow. He's just playing out of his mind. Them Ohio State receivers. Seattle goes to 7-2, and the Cardinals fall to 3-6 as it looks like another lost season for the Cardinals and company. Well, we got the same score here in the Detroit-Washington game. Lions 44, Commanders 22. As Mariota threw for 213 yards and 2 scores, but he was sacked 2 times. Once again, the running game unable to get on track. As the Lions offense, Jared Goff was able to throw for 320 and 3 scores. Jahmyr Gibbs had 142 yards on the ground, while David Montgomery had exactly half that at 71. Unreal. 226 yards on the ground for the Lions. I will say this. The plus in this game was that newly acquired Treylon Burks, the former first-round pick out of Tennessee, had 3 grabs for 58 yards in the absence of Terry McLaurin. Jalen Lane, the young rookie, had 1 grab for 41 yards, the big 41-yard bomb. That's the plus here. Deebo Samuel, 4 for 29 and a score. Robbie Chosen had 1 for 17. There are some guys that are getting in the mix in this Washington Commanders offense. They're going to need it if Jaden Daniels comes back. I'm not even sure if I would play Jaden Daniels to finish the season. I think ultimately they're saying that he's probably going to be done for the year, but even if he could come back, I think this is a wash. You leave it alone. But it was Jameson Williams' game. Everybody said that this guy was ready for a breakout season, and he has. 6 catches, 119 yards. I know people are going to say, well, he's only got 27 grabs, 4 scores. Look, this guy's catching touchdowns, and he's making a mark now. And needless to say, when you can outgain Amon-Ra St. Brown in a game, hey, listen, you take it. And if they get these 2 guys going, this offense is going to be scary. Laporta, 5 for 53. Khalif Raymond, 4 for 49. And needless to say, when you look at what this defense of Detroit is doing, Brian Branch had a sack and a half. And if they start getting using Brian Branch as a pass rusher, this is going to be scary. Detroit goes to 6-3, and the Commanders fall to 3-7 as they are getting ready for the big time. And a clash of 2 heavyweights, which could lead to major playoff and divisional implications. The Rams 42, the 49ers 26. Now, the relevance to this is, yes, the Rams won this game in San Fran. However, we all know that the 49ers have been dealing with injuries for majority of the season, as they've had Christian McCaffrey healthy. George Kittle's been healthy, but they're still dealing with 2 wide receivers that are injured. And, of course, they're dealing with Brock Purdy. But I don't even know if I would be willing to bring Brock Purdy back. I get it. Jones had an interception, but he was 33 for 39, 319 yards, 3 scores, and a pick. But you haven't gotten much out of the running game. Now, Brian Robinson ran for 41 yards and got 5 yards a carry, while McCaffrey was 12 for 30. But McCaffrey was dangerous in the passing game, 8 for 66. I'm wondering if maybe you kind of refrain from giving McCaffrey the ball in between the tackles and just give it to him outside. Let him get on the corner. Let him get one-on-one with these linebackers. That's what he's good at. Just a suggestion. Kittle, 9 grabs, 84 yards on a score. Juwan Jennings, 6 for 71 on a score. McCaffrey, 8 for 66. But then you go over here as, I never thought I'd be saying this about Matt Stafford, but he's the ageless one. He hit his 4th. This is another game where he's had 4 touchdowns. And this has capped a 3-game span that has never been achieved in the NFL, as Stafford has set an NFL record with his 3rd straight game with 4 touchdown passes. A mark that has never been set before. I thought that had been set, with the Mahomes and Josh Allen record. It had no interceptions. That's what it was. No interceptions. So he's the first player to ever throw 4 touchdowns in 3 straight games without an interception. I'm impressed. I'm not even going to joke with you. I'm impressed with that aspect. And I think it kind of couples with what Sean McVay said. He said he's just been in total command. So yeah, I think he's just been doing his thing. Kyren Williams has been great. I think this is an offense that is clicking on both sides. And when you can do that, makes it very nightmarish for a defense to have to deal with, was when you have a running game that's clicking and a passing game that's clicking. Yeah, he was able to just tear up this 49ers defense, which was shorthanded. Remember that. Connecting with Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, Davis Allen, and Kobe Parkinson on touchdowns. Devontae Adams added it best. He said it looks like an MVP type season. Yeah, and if many of you don't know or remember, Adams played with Aaron Rodgers when he won his MVP. So yeah, I can honestly tell you, I'm not a huge fan of Matt Stafford, but 25 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, very impressive. Just gonna say, he's looking very impressive, but Matt Stafford goes through hot and cold streaks, so it's possible we could get a cold streak out of Matt Stafford. But Kyren Williams, once again, as we alluded to, he's got 73 yards in this game, 2 scores. Blake Corum added 56. As I said, the 49ers defense and their offense has been hit with injuries. It's been another injury-filled season for this 49er team. They just cannot seem to get healthy. And they only ended up getting 1 sack, a half between Keon White and Davis. Yeah, you just feel for them, but at the same time, you got to feel good for the Rams. If you're a Rams fan, you're exceptionally pleased. You got a 1-game lead up on the 49ers, and their bye is coming up. So needless to say, you could open that lead up even more. But the 49ers fall to 6-4, and the Rams sit alone in first place in the West. Oh, my mistake. No, they're not alone in the West. The Seattle Seahawks are right there. So we got a race in the NFC West with the home stretch soon coming upon us. Then we got the 25-10 Chargers victory over the Steelers. Another team who has quietly just been doing their thing, as the Steelers have really been getting a lot of press time, being that Aaron Rodgers is there. As the Chargers, who've been beat up on both areas, from the running back to the 2 starting tackles, Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt, they just keep winning. Like I said, I'm impressed with the Chargers for them to be able to just keep bouncing back and getting win after win after win. This is just, they're another team that just keeps stacking them, and you don't even, you don't think about them. You just kind of think, okay, Justin Herbert's kind of just doing his thing, and yeah, but you really have to take your hat off to Justin Herbert, who was 20 for 33, 220 yards and a score, but then you come in with Vidal, who had 95 yards on the ground. And then you look at Ladd McConkey, who's had 4 grabs for 107 yards and a score. Quentin Johnston added 5 more. And the game doesn't look overly impressive how they won the game. But then you look at how bad Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers were. This is one of those games you just kind of bounce back and you just kind of say, it was almost like the Steelers and the Eagles game. This game was the Chargers dominating the time of possession. They almost doubled up the Steelers. 38 minutes to 22 minutes for the Steelers. The Steelers had 221 total yards as the Chargers had 314. But then you look here. 2 interceptions by Rodgers, 1 fumble lost. And you guys know how I feel about that turnover battle. You lose that turnover battle and you're not the favorite, chances are you're not going to win. I think this is a humbling experience for Mr. Rogers. He needs to get back to Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, and he needs to apologize to all of his counterparts. You heard me say it. You got to be better than that. You have to be better than that. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. You have to be better than that. But, the defense for the Chargers wasn't much better. I get it. 3 turnovers is not helping you, but, you got to be able to slow down the run better than this. And you cannot let a guy like Ladd McConkey only catch 4 rocks and take a 58-yarder. You can't do that. That's a big no-no. You just got to execute better. And I know Mike Tomlin's all about that execution. Meanwhile, you see Bud Dupree, who played his former team, had a sack, as well as Khalil Mack, who had a sack, and Tui Peloto had a sack. And not to say that the Steelers did a bad job. They got to Justin Herbert 5 times in this game. Alex Highsmith got there twice. TJ Watt got there once. Nick Herbig got there, and Benton got there once. So ultimately, the Steelers' defense is not ultimately the problem, but you do got to slow down the run better and make Herbert have to carry this team. You can't end up in a situation where you're making Aaron Rodgers, a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers, win this game for you on a regular. You can't do that. And I might add, he'll be 42 in a month. So, yeah, this can't be the formula for the Steelers to win. They're going to have to be able to run the ball, and they're going to have to be able to stop the run. As the Chargers go to 7-3, the Steelers are still atop the AFC North, but look out. Here come the Ravens. And finally, this pretty good, if I could ever say a defensive struggle was a good game, this was one. Eagles 10, Packers 7. Now, I'm going to say it from this standpoint. With it being 0-0 most of the night, it wasn't boring, but it almost looked like when Jalen Hurts hit that big one to Devontae Smith, it was almost like that you finally decided to take that shot. Now, I know he took shots on the night, but Jalen Hurts looks like he just really intentionally marches to his own beat. And it's like he intentionally pisses off A.J. Brown. I'm not saying he's doing that. I'm not trying to start no rumor, Eagle fans. But it just seems to me like it's like, I don't want to finish this game. And, Nick Sirianni is just continuously taking this team and just basically saying in a nutshell, hey, I'm going to do this the way I want to do it. This is my pace. And even Jalen Phillips said he could sense the mentality of the Eagles have a different aura than what he dealt with in Miami. And of course, when you're winning and you're a championship caliber team, you understand that everybody's got a job. You do your job. And you understand that you don't get panicked in these situations. You just go about it. And you understand that everybody's going to do what they're supposed to. Who also recovered a Jordan Love fumble. And this is where you really got to feel bad for a player. Jordan Love, who is really on the ascension and arguably becoming that top-tier quarterback. He was 20 of 36 for 176 yards, but he was sacked 3 times. And he's coming off a rough outing against the Carolina Panthers, in which he missed throws and had some bad had one bad interception and a bad interception. The thing that I think about this Green Bay team is what really bothers me about them is they really have not been able to establish the run. In my opinion, that they needed to put more runs to the outside, and they're not doing that. They did try to run a couple of runs on the perimeter, but you see it more with the Eagles. And what I really like about the Eagles, they commit to the run and they commit hard. And what I mean by hard is they're going to go inside, out. They're going to try to get the ball to Saquon Barkley at all cost. And when they don't, they hit Devontae Smith down the field, or they hit Dallas Goedert lurking around in there. And I think ultimately what's got the Eagles above everybody else is they include everybody. There's not a guy on the roster that they say, this is not a guy that we can't use. They use everybody. And to their benefit, it's going to continue to benefit them as long as they understand that everybody's got a job to do, much like Jalen Phillips said. The game was ultimately won on that touchdown, which was a good one. And like I said, you had two teams throwing haymakers. Ultimately, there was only a couple that landed. And needless to say, Philly came out with the win. And you looked at Jordan Love, who's basically saying it starts with him. They got to execute better. But ultimately, I look at it from the standpoint, Christian Watson, who was not supposed to play this season, I ultimately think that this is a guy they're going to have to get involved. Now, he did have two big ones, a 25-yarder and a 20-yarder. That ain't going to cut it. If you ain't going to get him, Wicks has got to come in, and you could tell that this Green Bay Packers offense really missed Tucker Kraft. You could tell they missed this guy. And ultimately, Luke Musgrave is going to have to be that dude that fills that void. And, that's where they're going to have to find someone that's going to fill that void. His 6 touchdowns, you could tell they were missing his presence tonight. But nonetheless, the Packers fall to 5-3-1, and the Philadelphia Eagles go to 7-2. And surprisingly, once again, back to talk of the NFC. Well, maybe not surprising. But guys, let me know what you think as Mr. CeeLo is back. Hopefully, I'll be here for a minute. But we in the swing of things, y'all. We are in the swing of things, and it don't get much better than where we are right now. Make sure you comment down below. If you got ways you guys can show me where I can make my content better, please do so. If you got comments or if you're a first-time subscriber, make sure you leave your name or comment down below. Make sure to like and subscribe to the show, guys. Make sure you also hit that bell notification so that anytime I drop a show, a short, or even a poll, you guys will have first dibs on it. Finally, make sure you go to the Facebook page, Gridiron Gab Pro Style, the group, as well as the page. Make sure you add a friend and join, as well as my Instagram at Mr. CeeLo, so you can keep up with all my in-season and out-season shenanigans and not fall behind. But until the next time, same Gab channel, same Gab platform.
But behold, there is a warm breeze that comes from the west. The blazing sounds of victory fuel their everlasting quest. It is a call to arms, for they are here. An army that has the will to challenge and the will to dare.